Yarmouth Board of Health. I'm Hillary Boskin, Chair of the Board. Just to confirm, we've got a quorum. Let's take attendance. Mary?
First, Mr. Chairman, we'll let everybody know this meeting is being recorded.
Then we just did.
There we did. Thank you.
Actually, we can go through the whole participation meeting statement here. If you want to start with that, that's pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and the governor's March 15th, 2020 order as well. This order imposes a limitation on the number of people that may gather in one location. This meeting will be conducted via remote participation. Specific information such as instructions and guidelines for remote by members of the public and or parties with a right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town website at www.yarmouth.ma.us. And as Director Murphy said, this meeting is being recorded. So back to attendance. Mary?
Present.
Okay, Deborah?
Oh, you're muted.
Of course I am.
There you go.
Present.
Not any longer. Welcome. Okay. Eric?
Here.
Charlie?
Charlie's here.
We get a nod from someone? Good. Okay. And Director Murphy,
Present.
you're still here. That's great. Okay. First item, of course, as usual, is the public comment. Is anyone calling in?
Meredith, do we have anybody in the waiting room or anybody calling in separately? No. Not just the people that want to talk tonight. That's all that's we have available.
Okay. No waiting line. Fair enough. Okay. Second item. And that's a discussion and a vote, apparently, for a review of existing tobacco cap regulation. That's the title here, number 2. Director Murphy, give us a little summary of what this is all about. Thank you.
Yes. What we have before the board is, I think the board will recall approximately a little over a month ago, we had 2 people come in and ask if the board would consider opening up the tobacco regulation that restricts the number of sales of tobacco in town. The board took that under advisement and said we'd put it on a later meeting, which is tonight's meeting. The question that they would like to bring is these are 2 locations in town that had tobacco licenses at one town, but one of them lost, well, both of them had lost the license. And they would like to have the board consider, just because the license was lost, the cap should be readjusted. So we can hear from both of those people that are interested in talking about that subject. And then the board will have to determine if you wish to reopen the tobacco cap section of the regulation. And if so, it would go out to a public hearing where we'd notify the public, would notify other tobacco stores in town that we're looking at doing it at a full hearing. Or if the Board of Health just feels comfortable now, leaving the regulation as is. So that's the question for tonight.
Okay, so that's just the tobacco product permit cap. That's just part of our tobacco regulations, correct? And that's from June in 2018?
Correct.
Okay. So perhaps it's best, why don't you just introduce who came in and we can listen.
Okay. Well, let's see. Can you let Jason and Greg in by video? There you go. Okay, Jason, great. And Greg? Can you activate your video? Or are you just calling in?
This is Greg D'Agostino. I'm just calling in.
Okay, that's fine. And who else do we have here? Is that Moshe? You're muted? Oh, you're muted. You need to unmute yourself.
Unmute.
There we go.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
And
Hi.
you're talking about the Great Island block.
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
Was Bob coming in also, Robert, to speak?
He should be, and he said he was in the middle of one other Zoom meeting and he was going to leave that to come to this.
Okay,
So,
because I
he
do
should be
know,
in.
okay, because I do know he sent a letter to the board that he wanted to read into the record also that the board does have.
Okay, very
So I
good.
guess with that, Mr. Chairman, we could start with Jason first. He's available. He can tell you what his history of his store is.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. So just to recap what I said, I think it's at the meeting last month. I'm the landlord for the former 7-Eleven at 444 Route 28, I believe, in West Yarmouth. And 7-Eleven had a tobacco license in their name that they let expire at the end of 2019. We had an agreement where I was going to purchase the license from 7-Eleven. 7-Eleven balked at the last minute and just decided it was in their best interest to let it lapse, and then they closed the store. So ideally, I'd be able to, reactivate that license or get a new license in order to re-let the premises to, a convenience store. The building was custom built for 7-Eleven, and we believe it's the highest and best use. We've had minimal inquiry from any other businesses for the space, but a lot of interest from convenience stores. And the only thing that's holding up a deal right now is the lack of a tobacco license.
Pretty straightforward. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
And why are you coming in front of us at this point, in the sense of the timing of it?
So I was actually, I spoke, I believe in February of 2020 at the meeting. And then I think I was on the calendar in April. And because of COVID, everything just got put on hiatus.
So you're talking February of 2020.
Correct. Yeah, I spoke at the general opening of the meeting.
Right. No, I recall. And when did your business switch over? When did 7-Eleven leave the premises?
They left in June, I believe.
Of what year?
19. Oh no, December. They closed the store in December of 19.
Okay.
And their lease expired in June of 20.
Okay. So, board members, we have some questions for Greg.
Greg, would you clarify, you said that you had an arrangement with 7-Eleven to purchase the license, but that didn't happen?
Correct. 7-Eleven changed their mind and decided they wanted just to let the license lapse.
So you had nothing in writing from them?
We had, an email exchange of a deal, but nothing contractual. But because it was in their name, I knew this was happening during the time. I was trying to work with Bruce. Is there any way for me to acquire the license? But because it was in 7-Eleven's name, there was no way for me to keep it alive.
Thank you.
Board members. Any questions? Because we're going to have this discussion after we hear from the second person. So anyone else? Information is going to be helpful for our discussion.
So, Jason, can you just clarify, you purchased the property or did you already own the property?
So we already owned the property. My dad built the 7-Eleven for 7-Eleven when they opened. I believe in the 80s,
and their lease
in the mid.
expired or whatever. And
Yeah, so they exercised some options over the years, and in June of 20, they decided, or rather in December of 19, they decided to close the store and not exercise their next 5-year option.
okay. And you had a gentleman's agreement to transfer the license for the tobacco
Correct.
license to be transferred over to you.
Correct.
Okay.
But dealing with 7-Eleven, in Dallas is difficult. So the store was a corporate store.
Mhm. Deb, are you having some trouble? Deb, looks like Deb has some thoughts here that she is
So
unable.
I don't know if anyone can hear me. I'm sorry. I
Yes.
have no picture. So I'm having internet trouble. So I just need to sign off and sign back on again.
Okay,
Okay, I'll be right back.
we're gonna wait on it.
Okay, sorry.
Not a problem.
That Charlie there?
Okay, I fixed it. Can you hear me now?
Yes, still can.
Yes, I did have I had a couple questions myself. So I remember when Jason was here last time, and he was talking about how 7-Eleven held on to the permit and let it lapse. So I just had a couple of questions. I know when we had the original the regulation was changed in June 2018. There were 35 establishments that had tobacco permits at the time, right? So in terms of process, if I just want to make sure I understand, and this might be information that we've already talked about before, but in terms of they let the permit lapse, the 7-Eleven let the permit expire. So that reduced the cap, correct?
That's my understanding.
Okay. So this is not necessarily for you, Jason. This is just so for me to have some clarification. So if he were to sell, I guess, I think our intent in the regulation was good, but I do think I'm a little confused by it, so I can see why other people would be. As far as 7-Eleven having the permit, they let it expire, even though they told Jason they were going to transfer it to him. When I say transfer, does that mean you would have had to pay them money for their permit?
Yes.
Okay. And my understanding is the Board of Health determines how much a permit costs, correct?
No, they can sell it for whatever they feel a true value is.
Okay.
It appeared that 7-Eleven was not planning to, after the negotiations back and forth with Jason, 7-Eleven decided they would keep the permit and not sell it back to Jason.
Right.
They understood that the cap would be reduced.
No, I understand that part, but I guess I really read the regulation. And in number 4, it says the fee for a tobacco product sales permit shall be determined by the Yarmouth Board of Health annually.
Yes, the annual fee is for the
So
license.
that's the fee. So once I guess what I don't understand is, so say we didn't have a cap and we had 3 permits available. How would someone go about getting that permit?
If we didn't have a cap?
Yeah, say there was a permit that the town of Yarmouth had. How did somebody get that? How would somebody get that permit?
If there was no cap, somebody would just come in and say, I just want to open a tobacco store and I'll pay the $50 fee.
Right. So by all these businesses that already have permits, and again, this maybe I'm just overthinking it. Now we've placed all right, supply and demand, I guess is where I'm going with this, right? So now that there's caps, the prices of these permits can be, in 7-Eleven's case, they can hold on to it because they're a big corporation and they could say, oh, we want $150,000 or whatever for this permit. And then a small business is like, yeah, that's crazy. I can't do that or whatever.
Well, that's correct. It would be the similar as like a liquor license. But they can't, 7-Eleven just can't hold it and not use it right now. If it's not active, it becomes void.
Right, I understand that, but I guess my thing is, especially with the economy the way it is, and I just feel like this is somehow stunting small business, right? It's when we wrote this, 3 years ago, we didn't know there was going to be a pandemic. We didn't know that all these businesses were going to close. So like if 5 people with tobacco permits closed tomorrow, nobody, because it's a pandemic, nobody's buying their business, all of those would just reduce the cap, correct?
That is correct, but the other thought is that we've heard is that if I'm gonna move out of a store, I might not want that cap to go back in because then that's extra competition for my other stores.
Right.
So there's that side of the coin too, that.
Well, that's Jason's case right now, right?
No, I think that 7-Eleven's case is they didn't want to give it back to Jason because they were concerned, they just assume have less stores that keeps their other stores, which they don't have in town,
This year.
more valuable.
Right, I understand that. I just feel like it shouldn't be 7-Elevens. They shouldn't get to decide whether or not a small business gets that. That's just, I just want to make sure I understand. So we're monetizing by making the demand higher and the supply lower. We're basically making the permits more expensive.
Exactly, like I mentioned, there's a cap on liquor licenses. And for a new person to come in to open a liquor store, they have to buy another store out or.
Right.
Yeah. So there is a cost, and I think we heard that in the public hearings when we mentioned we were going to have a cap
Right.
2 years ago, that all the retail stores thought it was a good idea because that would make their retail store more valuable.
Right. No, I mean, like I said, I understand the intent. I understand what, I just think that the situation from then and now has changed a little bit. So I just wanted to make sure I kind of had it all straight in my head before we went any further. Thank you.
Okay. We have another speaker. Bruce, there's someone else?
Yeah, Robert is here that would speak, be the first speaker on, that wants to read his letter in on Great Island Plaza. And then one of the owners of Great Island Plaza would also like to speak.
That'd be great. And after those two people, then the board can have a discussion, decide what we'll do.
Bruce, I'm on other boards. I can skip my reading of my letter if the board has already read it. It's not really important that I read it into the minutes. Has everybody got a chance to read it?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So the points I was trying to make, which is I'm on the Finance Committee and Capital Budget Committee, and I've noticed that 2/3 of our commercial tax base is gone. And it's kind of like, I don't obviously blame the Board of Health in any way, but the town is doing something that over 10 years, we've lost 60% of our commercial tax base. We're all doing something. I don't know what it is, but it's not growing the businesses in the town. So whether it's Board of Health mixed with zoning or whatever, we all need to take a little bit of a look at what's happening. And I think that's the point I was trying to make. And also the point that it had a license for many, many decades. And we're asking to get it back. And it's critical during this time period for us to have a license for that site to get any interest for convenience store. So that's it. And I appreciate the opportunity of the board. I didn't want to take more time than necessary. Thank you.
I appreciate it. It's great. Anyone have any questions at this point? Okay.
And we have one more speaker.
Yeah, this is Haya Rosenberg. She's actually in Israel right now, Jerusalem, I believe, and it's midnight there. Haya?
Yes, it is. My voice is a little hoarse right now because I slept and then I set an alarm to get up for this, but I just wanted to be present to hear it. And I feel that you're really representing me the best. So I prefer you to continue. I don't really have anything else to say because I think you've said everything. And, we spent a year permitting. And before the property went into my name, I had absolutely no idea about the license, whether it expired or not. I really had no knowledge of that. Unlike the person before, he was going to try and make some type of a deal with 7-Eleven. Here, I had absolutely no clue that that there was a loss of license and it was going to be hard to get that back.
Actually, I did have one more thing. Did the board remember that we did have someone actually try to put the property under agreement, and they did actually go search to try to buy a license from one of the 30 some odd licenses that are out of there, and the price that they got was about $150,000 for the cost of a license if someone wanted to buy it. Needless to say, that didn't land positively with the agreement we had.
Right.
So
That's
we lost-
what I remember when you heard it last time. That figure sort of stuck in my head. Yeah, that was me. Thank
No, I two things. One, I guess, is we need to discuss whether we want to change the regulation, the cap that's presently in the tobacco regulations. The other is one thing that we need to keep in mind if we're removing a cap, we'd have to decide, well, who should be able to get a license? In other words, there'd be a format for that. I mean, it needs to be available to the public. Bruce, is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah, for lifting a cap, then anyone, I guess, could be interested or would be interested and would have the option of applying for it. So which
Now, we
one?
did have one board, one license was sold. The gas station on the corner of Route 28 in Barnstable used to be Speedway, and they sold it to a new gas station coming in, so they did have to buy a license from the old owner. So we've had one sold and one advanced, I would say. They sold it for the new business to go in. And then the other one was the smoke shop that we had on 28 in the old Christmas Tree Plaza. That used to be a smoke shop in there, and they just went out of business. They didn't look at selling it to anybody else. They just turned in license and went out of business. The smoke shop.
I'm curious, what's going on in other towns, Bruce, with cap?
Well, on the Cape, that's a good question. I know statewide, there's 140 towns that have some type of a tobacco cap license. So, they've been discussing that for a number of years, the cap, and this has always been a question is, how much of a cap should a town have?
Right.
And what you sent out for us, Bruce, there's about 54 of those municipalities that retire the licenses when they're expired, like our regulation does.
That is correct.
Deborah, you had your hand up.
I did. So I just wanted to clarify. I'm not against a cap. I think nobody wants us to have 80 places that sell tobacco in our town. But I think personally, I think these two situations, one with Jason and the one with Great Island Block, the development, are especially Great Island Block, because that place that had the tobacco real estate license, and that might have been a little bit like right as I got onto the board, or maybe a little before I got here, but we took that permit from them, right?
That's correct. They're in violation.
Right. So, I mean, and then that's whole area there, that piece, it needs to be redeveloped. And I feel like the woman that's calling in from Israel, thank you, by the way, she bought the property. She had no idea. She didn't. I mean, there was no opportunity for her to take over that permit, I guess.
She had owned the property. She owns the property.
I never owned it before. I can explain.
The family trust. Your family had owned it.
Right, right. But I still had to pay my siblings to have that. And 10 years ago, I tried to develop it so that my mother wouldn't have a liability. I came to look after her because she had Alzheimer's. And I moved my whole family to Boston to look after my mother at that time. And I spent some time in the Cape about between 2008 and 2009 in an effort to redevelop that property and fix that up at that time, certainly so that it wouldn't be a liability on my mother, who was not capable. And I had another sibling who was seemingly incapable. I wasn't living in the country at the time. I was living in Israel. So I really had no hand in anything that was going on. And then I was pushed back from the family from doing that. And just as I had, I spent time with Karen Green and Kathleen and Mark Grills. I mean, I really did what I could 10 years ago to try and change that around, change the situation around. And it was a miserable situation. And when my mother passed, I really did feel an obligation to just sort of jump in and do what I could. I mean, here in Israel, I developed things as well, but smaller projects. But this really was sort of a passionate thing for me. And we spent a year getting all the permitting in place. And it's really, for me, a hardship, because at this point, and I don't think I need to tell anyone what it takes to get something permitted. We have magnificent drawings of what this place should look like. And I don't know if you've seen any of them, but I really put an extensive effort for an entire year with, Zoning Board of Appeal, design review, and all of the likes. And all of a sudden, as we were trying to rent, we just, tenant after tenant was leaving because they were trying to get licenses. You might have heard from some of them in an effort to for them to see if they could get the license. But it's a tremendous disappointment and a tremendous financial hardship on me, as I really put so much into trying to get this place developed. And this has been such a hindrance. It's a huge disappointment.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, the place really needed it. I've known it, and I was powerless to do anything about it. And now that I finally stepped in to do something about it, it's really a shame what's going on, that it's so hard to get that. And it seems that anchor, since that's what it was appealing to people who wanted to open up that type of a business, maybe with a different slant, with a little, something a little more upbeat than what was there. But this has been very difficult.
I can tell you that I have at least 2 people right now waiting to hear how this meeting goes tonight. So, I mean, if I call them tomorrow and says it's favorable, they're going to move forward with discussion regarding leasing the space and or buying the sites.
Robert, you mentioned earlier that there were 35 licenses at the time that this was put in place, and
Yeah, but the policy of the Board of Health has been to sort of revoke those licenses as they come back.
Right.
So I get
Right.
that.
Right. I mean, I had heard after the fact about what happened with that grocery store, and it was terrible. And the town should have rightfully taken that license back. They did the right thing. But I had no idea that it was going to be this hard, such an uphill battle to regain that.
And I do think we can make it or to agree with the Board of Health that we'll make the license so that it will not be transferred off that site. which takes the value of it and deletes it, reduces it dramatically from the resale, which is what's expanding the value of these things. It's the fact that there aren't any, and that you have to actually buy one to open a store somewhere else. But if it had to stay at the site, I think it would reduce the value of this, the ability to transmit the license from one place to another.
When you say that the license would remain on that site, do you mean that the property owner would remain in possession of the license?
No, I don't think that could work that way, but what we'd do is we'd agree to put a term in the lease agreement that said this, the license has to stay at the location of the property and cannot be transferred and sold separately. Only the business entirely, and only for the business to stay at the site. That's the way we would control it. We wouldn't want to have a name on it. You know what I mean? We'd make it a legal obligation, which Jason probably, had he had perfect hindsight, he would have cut some type of a deal like that, or his father would have, but not knowing that there was actually, there were no caps. So there was no reason to have a discussion that the license had to stay, because in theory, we had unlimited cigarette license.
Exactly right.
I have to say, I agree with you, Deb, that I don't like this situation that we're creating, or, the situation that's being created where you have license holders who can name their price, and, you have small businesses or prospective small business owners who maybe can or can't afford the license. And I don't know. I mean, maybe, I'm not saying that the cap should be lifted, but I think that sort of a situation kind of creates a bit of a oligopoly, I guess.
That's a good word. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really like it.
I mean, I don't know what next, I mean, I can just tell you my personal opinion. I don't know what next steps are, but I think we should have a cap. I don't think it should just be unlimited, but I also feel like we had 35, and did that seem like a good number? Did we feel like we had too many? I mean, I don't know what did we have at what period did we have the most? Like, have we had 40, 50? I mean, I just don't know the answer to. But if again, don't know what next steps are, but I would be fine. I personally would like to keep it at 35. And if these two businesses want it, I feel like the Great Island block, I understand that it was in the family, but family can be complicated. And that situation with that particular convenience store, again, I think I came on the board around when that was all sort of wrapping up, but I remember reading about all of that in the paper, and that I just feel like that the people that are trying to develop this blight, basically, it's not pretty to look at. If it's a tobacco permit that's keeping that from being developed, and I just think, especially, and I keep talking about the economy, and I just feel like if we can get some businesses in town, and these businesses are agreeing to our regulations on what we require of them to do, then I personally think we should put it back up to 35 and give these businesses the opportunity to have the permit.
Problem I have, Deborah, is that right now, I don't think we can issue new licenses with what the regulation is right now. In other words, we would have to lift it. There's a regulation in effect. So these would be new licenses. These are people who had them at one time. There, I'm sure, other people in town who had a permit also. So the question is, are these people, should they be able to get the license? Let's say one of us wants to get a license and open a business. Should we be prevented of getting a new license? I'm not sure if other people would want to open a store right now and they would like a license. Will they be able to get one? Is there
Right, I totally get where you're coming from. I don't know what the process needs to look like. My opinion is if we can give these two businesses a license, I think they have unusual circumstances that if it were up to me, I would. But I mean, I'm only one of five, so.
Unfortunately, I feel like there's probably several other business owners who
Oh, I'm
have
sure.
had unfortunate circumstances as
Right.
well, or unique circumstances. So how, where does it stop? And then it sort of defeats the purpose of the cap in the first place. But there are two issues at play, which are the cap and then the reduction in the number of licenses. So
Right.
obviously.
I mean, again, I think there should be a cap. I'm torn. I'm really torn. I feel like the Great Island Block area needs to be redeveloped. I understand that it seems like them not having the tobacco license is holding it up. The previous tobacco license holder didn't follow any of the rules. It sounds like this person will. Sounds like that's a good thing. And I don't know, I think I've said my piece. I think everyone knows kind of where I'm at right now.
I would like to speak to this now. I also see the conflict between public health and the economy, but as the Board of Health, our purpose is to protect and improve the public health. And that was the purpose of this cap, because we are trying to eliminate the places where young people can purchase smoking products in Yarmouth, because we know that most people begin smoking in their adolescent years. We have seen a decrease in smoking amongst young people from last year to this year, and also nationally, which I think is very encouraging. And I also think is probably the result of some of the efforts that local boards of health have been taking to eliminate flavored tobaccos, because again, almost all young people who smoke are smoking the flavored tobaccos, and that's how they get started. And most people who smoke do get started in their high school and below years. So I think that the efforts that we have made as a board make me feel very good and make me feel as if they have been worthwhile, including the tobacco cap. I do understand the whole issue of the economy and individual cases that really do tug at me. But I think as a member of the Board of Health, my overarching concern is the public health. And I think that our cap is a valid measure to help eliminate one of the causes of morbidity and mortality amongst our population, particularly our young people that are going to grow up and suffer the results of the tobacco and smoking products.
Good point. I mean, what's our responsibility as volunteers here in the Board of Health? So it's a good point, Mary. And how much should it be looking at smoking versus, the economy, which certainly does affect people a lot and their health. Is the issue also of development of 28? What do we want to see there in the future for Yarmouth? What kinds of businesses do we want? Is it, the goal is to get tourism here, and that's what's going to, move this economy along locally, is my belief. It's the one thing that we can offer to get people across the bridge that brings money here. So the question is what kind of businesses? But when it comes down to it, what's our responsibility here? And does it have to do with tobacco use or development of 28? We all signed, if I'm not mistaken, all of us did sign the regulation. I believe so. I think it was all five of us did. If someone changed their mind, then this would be the time to speak up. If someone changed their mind.
I don't think I signed that. I think that was before my time on the board.
I have it in front of me. You can sign it.
Okay,
Me, Hillard, actually Mary didn't sign it either.
Just to clarify.
No, my copy's signed.
Oh, really? The one I have isn't.
Yeah, we all signed it on the copy I have.
okay, so 4 people who personally on the board signed it then. Okay,
Right.
Bruce, can I make a comment?
oh, sure. I see your hand up.
Oh, okay. I think it's not that the cap is a bad idea. I think what happens is the way it was written is it didn't give you enough flexibility to make adjustments. That's all. The drop off part is where it really hurt you. You should have maybe hindsight, perfect sight. You could have written it that you had 6 months to hold it in a escrow mentality or something. To see if there was any viable people that wanted to come get it. I think the drop off is what kills you, because if you had 2 in hold, you'd be in the exact same situation as you were before. And I can tell you also, by the way, Deborah, I'm going to take up both smoking and drinking if we don't fix that plaza.
It's ugly. I'm not gonna lie.
Lost
It's hard
one.
enough. It's hard enough to market this thing during COVID. I'm
I-
definitely taking up smoking and drinking if you guys don't help.
I think I mean, I signed it. I have to say, obviously at the time, like I said, I think our intent was there, that we had good intentions. I just think now hearing these situations, I've changed my mind. I think there should be a cap. I think the cap should be 35, which is what it was when we talked about a cap.
And some of those stores, when we had the cap, were, that turned their licenses were the pharmacies.
Right, like CVS, well, like they don't sell tobacco products.
Yeah,
No,
so
I-
I mean, whether you want to go back to 35, I guess that would be a question in the public meeting, is how many stores do you want to come back in? What's the vision on the number of tobacco stores you want in town, whether they're, part of a chain or separate stores or smoke shops opening up?
Is it possible to revisit the regulation to make it so that if a license lapse or, if a business no longer wishes to hold a license, that the license goes back to the health department rather than being up for private sale or,
Well, I don't think we want to be in the business of determining who gets a license if it comes back to us, I guess. Would be my opinion. I mean, because we'd have all kinds of people possibly applying for the license, and what grounds would you have to say who should get the next license? There's really no waiting list.
Well, there's not right now. I mean, there's waiting lists for dozens of other items within municipalities. So I just really dislike the fact that if I hold a license, I can be $200,000 richer because I hold the license, or I can let it die, and that way somebody else can't have a business. I mean,
That's
there's
where-
other
Eric,
ways.
Eric, you just that's exact. I mean, I don't think I said it as well as you, but that's my exact point. And I don't know how to remedy that.
Once again, maybe I'm being redundant. There will be numerous people will be interested in getting a license right now. We have a regulation in effect right now. Yeah, the regulation could be rewritten if the board wanted to do that. The question is, how would other people in the town feel if we decided we're going to grant 2 licenses to these businesses? Currently, these businesses do not have tobacco permits.
I don't see how we can do that. I think we would have to go through the process that Bruce outlined at the beginning of the meeting. We would have to notify everyone we were thinking about changing the regulation and go through the public hearing process.
Correct.
That's how it would happen. That we could at least discuss whether we were going to eliminate or make the cap stationary.
Well, um, if someone, if someone wants to have the board to look at the regulation again, we can do that and start the process. No, I guess it would be a motion tonight. Tonight's the night. If someone wants to go through that process, they can see how the board feels by making that motion to
Just to
reconsider.
revisit the regulation, Hillary?
I'm sorry?
The move should be to revisit the tobacco regulation, the whole thing, or just the cap piece?
Just on the cap, just that's the only part. I don't think, unless someone has a problem with the rest of the tobacco regulation, which is quite lengthy, but it's really dealing with the cap, which I think was letter Q on the regulations. It's page 10. I have it in front of me now.
Yeah, I do too. Oh, I did.
So,
Oh, there it is.
but
Well,
that's
then so moved. I moved that we revisit the tobacco product permit cap.
so we would need a second if someone wants to move along with this, and if so, it would require a second before a vote in order to vote, if anyone wants to start this process.
I'll second.
The issue, just to point out, deciding to do something retroactively, to open it up to other businesses. There'll be a lot of competition. People want it. Just make sure they're aware of that. But anyway, we have a motion on the table right now.
Eric seconded it.
I seconded. I mean, maybe it's not necessary to clarify this, but I'm not interested in issuing any new licenses. However, I would be interested to revisit the regulation potentially.
Okay, you're seconded, and this is really the start of the discussion as you get, which is fine, which is good. Any other discussion about it before to vote on whether we're going to look at the regulation and consider what to do? We can also do that tonight, right now. So the motion is whether to just looking at it, Deborah, or what? What?
Yeah, to revisit it, to see if I mean, I told you kind of what I would like the end game to look like.
Right.
At least in my mind. I mean, like I said, I'm one of 5. So I would like to revisit it.
Okay.
And because I do think that it's and I think that the redevelopment of that area, the Great Island area, and that the situation with that previous permit holder, and the person that wants to redevelopment, didn't know any of this. So I don't know. I'd like to revisit it. I just would like, I mean, I think, I don't know what that should look like. I know this is what I think. So whatever that looks like. So that's why I moved that we revisit it to discuss it again. I don't know if it's just going to be me and Eric, and then I don't know. We haven't heard from Charlie. Where's Charlie? What does Charlie think?
Good question. Any comments? Guess not. Okay. Okay, once again, motion's there, whether to review it or not, and that's going to be part of the discussion would end up being what to do about these 2 individuals. I mean, it's totally separate is how I see it. So it's to revisit it. And we can do that tonight, or we can put it on to the next meeting. Director Murphy, do you have any preference here?
I would say right now, there's no really variance procedure within the regulation because it's a straight cap.
Yes.
If the board wants to look at it, we can put it on the next agenda, the end of February, and that would be a public hearing. We would advertise in the paper and notify the other people that currently have a license. So we would have a public hearing that people could Zoom in and call and discuss on. So it would either be the last meeting in February or one of the first meetings in March, once we can coordinate this.
Okay, board
Be a
members,
full public meeting before we could go forward, then determine, I don't think right now the board can make a decision just to issue a license without changing the regulation to allow that. And then
oh,
decide the number.
100%, yes.
Right.
So we can just vote to see whether we want to open this up and look at the regulation or not. Really, it's having an open meeting, yeah. So, all in favor of opening up for a discussion, having a public meeting to get the opinion from the public and decide whether or not to change the specific regulation with the cap?
Do that by a roll call, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, okay. So I'll look at the screen, we'll go from left to right. Deborah,
Aye.
Mary,
No,
Eric,
I,
Charlie,
Aye. He said aye. I don't know if you can hear him. He said yes.
okay. So I'm nay, so it's a 3-2 in favor of opening it up and looking at the cap.
I will put it on the next agenda coming up, and like I said, it's either the last meeting in February or the first one in March.
Either, that's fine, that's fine.
And I will notify all the parties.
Okay, sounds good. Board members, everyone understands how we're moving forward on it? Questions about it? If not, we can move along on tonight's agenda.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay,
Thank you, everybody.
all right. Third item, the agenda is an update on coronavirus, and we've got some statistics, demographics coming up. Director Murphy, I'm gonna let you take over here. This is probably most of the meeting.
Okay, we're gonna turn the over to our Zoom master so we can put up some of the COVID statistics. Just give us 1 second so we can arrange that.
I didn't get any of that.
I'm sorry, Eric?
Yeah, it should be the 5th, not, we got 129 up there. Okay, this is going to be the first slide of several slides coming through. We're just checking on a date. This says, as of January 29th, there was 593 cases.
953.
953, right. Just 1 second. I want to just check the file.
All board members can see the screen statistics.
Yep.
Charlie, can you see something with it or not? Okay, guess not.
All right, we'll go back. We'll start from the top here. This was the last of January the 29th. You can see we had 953 cases. 89 were active, and we've had 27 deaths. I think this is the packet that you have with you. I think that's the numbers you have right there.
No, I got
February.
Yeah, so you're looking at the February 2nd packet, and that's what we're trying to look at. There seemed to be a cross in the seems to be a cross between what we sent to the board and what we're putting in the Zoom. Let me just see if it's available. Just one second. Yes. Our Zoom master is going to go back to the office to see if we can get all the updated stats for February 5th so we can go through, because I think that is all based on that. So if we can just wait a minute, is there anything else you'd like to talk about, Mr. Chairman?
Why don't we go ahead and look at perhaps the vaccination distribution, or maybe just regional vaccination clinics? Maybe we can jump to that.
Bruce, can someone else share their screen? Because I can pull it up on my computer.
Well, that's a good question. Meredith just went downstairs with the thumb drive to take it off her computer and bring it back. Or I should have been the one. So I'd just say, well, Mr. Chairman, on the vaccination sites, I guess we could jump to that. I think it's going to be easier when we go through the screen. So I'd say we should probably just pause for a couple minutes. Unfortunately, why Meredith's gone to get that, I don't have anything to put across the screen that says that we're in pause. Like
Well, you
we
can
used to
just
do
say
when we're on the TV section live, we're able to make a note that we're had a break.
Okay. Do you want to talk about noncompliance? That's number 7 on the agenda, if that would help fill some space here.
Yes, we can talk about, we're still receiving the last part of the agenda, non-compliance, that we are still getting some complaints about people not wearing masks. Some social gatherings hasn't been as bad. I think the one that we just had on a business not wearing masks that we finally were working with the Department of Labor Standards was Napa on 28 here, ignored several of the verbal orders that were issued by the health department. We referred it to Department of Labor Standards. They sent them a warning letter that was also annoyed. So after that, they were issued a fine by Department of Labor Standards for their employees. Pretty much all the employees were not wearing masks. We were receiving numerous complaints from the public that we were not enforcing the governor's orders, that we were not out there doing what we needed to do. So they currently have issued a fine by DLS. Since then, we've talked to the owner of the store. He assures us that he has talked to his employees and they'll be wearing a mask. So that was recent. As of last week, we were working on that case and on that complaint that we're receiving from the public.
Bruce, is the owner the on-site manager?
No, it's not an on-site manager. He owns several Napa stores on and off Cape. So he was not on-site or aware what was going on. We were in contact with the store managers about the violations.
So he has talked to the store managers.
Yes, he has. And he said he would bring them into compliance right away. And I believe they're in compliance now. We'll be checking this week. He was, The owner, I guess, would say was a little disappointed that the store would not stay in compliance and that and that the town was receiving complaints on the store.
So who got the notice about the fine?
It went right to the, went right to the store.
Not to the owner?
No, because it wasn't listed, he wasn't listed there. So we're working with them on that now to bring them in compliance.
And you said that was Napa on 28?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and it's tough because it put us in a tough position where we had different people calling us of a complaint going on and that we weren't out there enforcing. So that would take care of that one right there.
What's the status at the post office?
The post office seems to be better now at South Yarmouth. We did have a few complaints about people going in there, either standing too close while they're waiting in line to go in front of their boxes. But that seems to have slowed down now. I think we're past the Christmas rush of people in line. No. Okay, just one second. Meredith is back. So Deborah, Meredith is back. Did you say you could share your file back, send it back, or what would you need, Meredith? Oh, you're muted. Go.
Yeah, I said I could probably share my screen, but I can't share a screen if Meredith's already sharing a
Oh.
screen.
Huh?
I think that's correct.
You stop sharing?
Oh, well, okay then. Let me just make sure I have it up. You want to start with the numbers, Bruce?
Yes.
Okay. 1 second. I have to say it's okay first. I don't know, it still won't let me, it still doesn't seem to want to let me share it. Oh, I'm a co-host now. Well, maybe I can now. Yeah, I don't know. It won't let me do it. I don't know why. Checked everything I'm supposed to check. I'm sorry. I wasn't planning. I would have made sure I could if I had the opportunity. Yeah, I'm sorry, it won't work. I can't get it to work, guys. Sorry.
Bruce,
Yes.
if you have the correct slides in front of you, overheads, maybe you could just narrate them because we all have the more recent ones. So
Okay.
you could just tell us and we can look at what we have.
Okay. I'm just trying to think for the public at home, they can follow and I can tell them what the new dates are.
Right.
Okay. All right, let's put it up and go from there then. So at the end of January, there was 953 cases. But what we have last Friday, we're up to 1,013 cases with 28 deaths. So you can see that it's jumped up about 60 cases in a week. Okay. By village, it is now, instead of West Yarmouth, it's up to 436. South Yarmouth is 393, Yarmouth Port's 184 for the total of 1,013 cases. It's spread pretty much throughout the community, and you can see it's also based on the areas of population within town. Okay. Jeez. You can see the last, this will be the 2 Fridays, and then we can go into Friday, February 5th. The column would have been 0 to 5 had gone up to 54, and 11 to 17 is 19 is 75, and then it goes up to 139. So you can still see it's increasing by the 60, and each of the categories are going up slightly in that same area. Okay.
No major spikes in a
No
particular area?
no major spikes at all.
Okay,
The next sheet is the, it's hard to read this one at home, I know, but it's just the idea of just showing the number of cases that come in each day. And we can see that when the pandemic started in the first time in April and May, we're getting about 5 cases a day. And now that we've seen the surge, we're up into that 10 to 15 cases a day, and we're seeing it come down a little bit now. So it's not necessary that you need to see the numbers. It's more important just to see that the spike is much more increased than in the beginning. Okay. And this is just the total number of cases that we have in town that are active. You can see at one time early in the pandemic, we had about 40 active cases. And now we were seeing 80 to 100 to 120, up to 180 active cases per day. And I think that's the important thing taken from this chart is not everybody can see the numbers or the dates, but you can see that it's increased the number of active cases per day.
And hopefully they're all quarantining.
Yes. What we had on this date, the week before the end of January, it was our 8th consecutive week of a high-risk community, and we had a positivity rate of 5.87. But when it came out last week in February, we had dropped down out of a high-risk community back into a yellow, and we're at a 4.55%. So I think that's a good trend for the Board of Health, seeing us, the cases going down. And I think that's from, hopefully it's the awareness program that we have in our message boards in town, just trying to change the mindset of people taking precautions. Maybe the message board at the landfill and at the rec center showing what positive cases are. So I think that's a good trend that we're in. Okay. That just goes over the positivity case from that last chart, so we can go right by that. The number of deaths was 27, and we can see how they went starting at the first part in March, April, and May, where we had a few deaths, nothing during the summer. Then it came back in December and January that we did add one more death last week. So in December, we had 9, and then in January, we had 8. It's hard to see, but most of them were either at Cape Cod Hospital or people were in a nursing home. Oh, yeah, we don't have that opiate one either. So we still mentioning to the people at home to avoid gatherings, dinner parties, birthday parties, sleepover, play dates. The greatest number of where people are getting COVID now is through the home environment. When they do their tracing, that's where they're finding most of the cases are from gatherings within the home. So also, if they don't feel well, or if you're waiting for a test, people should stay home, not send their kids to school or go to work to stop the spread. Thank you. Just mentioning food assistance that's available at the senior center. They do brown bag pickup to go every first Friday of the month. They also do soup grab and go, and is that every Friday, Meredith, that helps out at? The last 3 Fridays of the month at the senior center. So that's an area for food. The food pantry in town also has food available several days a week. By calling that, you can find out the hours and get that available for food assistance. So Board of Health actions that has been taken. This was a slide that we put together for our presentation before the selectmen last week or the week before, of actions that the Board of Health has taken from the beginning of the pandemic. And hopefully some of these actions have lowered the positivity case. So there's currently 62 governor's orders that we enforce. And there's also separate enforcement of state sectors specific in guidelines that we enforce. Also, there's the weekly conference calls that the Board of Health staff and chairman listen to. And DPH is twice a week on Tuesdays and Fridays. Maven is the epidemiology network that's twice a week that Phil's on, that he's tracking cases. We also have, go ahead, the county health department once a week on Tuesday. And at times we have town health, departments on their internal discussions. We have frequent calls and individual conversations with the recreation during the summer, was constantly talking to them about their lifeguards. With the senior center about their cases, staying in touch with the seniors, working with grab and go with the seniors also. The library, will remember we had talks with the library about when we needed to close the library and the books would go pick up. Natural resources, the board worked with on boat ramps and so forth. And the DPW working with the beaches, the boardwalks early in the pandemic. We have frequent contact with our nursing homes and independent living facilities. Every once in a while, unfortunately, there has been a couple small spikes at both of these cases. So we're working with them on the precautions they take. Testing people now, and also the facilities are closed to visitors. The daily contact tracing that Phil works on is daily with the VNA and state contact traces of any of them positive cases that we saw early that are coming in that could range from 5 to 10 to 20 cases per day. We're also frequently, almost daily, talking to the school lead nurse if there's children that are coming that have a case themselves or a close contact with a family member that might be in home that has come down with it, so they can't go to school. So we're in regular contact with the lead school nurse on that. The schools have been safe. We haven't had to close down a classroom per se, because one student that might have had 4 or 5 cases in the class. What we have had to close is several classrooms because we've had a positive case, and therefore that case might have been out on the playground and there was contact on a playground, not within the classroom, but outside the classroom. We've also had a positive case on an athletic team that the athletic team would have to shut down for 2 weeks, or a team played another team that had a COVID case that had to shut down for a couple of weeks that we're working with the high school now. As mentioned, we're still responding to complaints and working with the Department of Labor Standards. We're getting the message out through our message and signboards, okay? We purchased the signboard through the CARES Act for town funding that allows us to purchase items besides us and other departments in town. We've worked on daily posting of stats on the town webpage that goes up every day that Phil puts out. and the message board up at the landfill that Meredith maintains daily on that also. Community message, there was signs posted at the beaches, the playgrounds, the boardwalks, and they're still posted out there. The dog park, any of our trails, the signs are still posted also about COVID and precautions that need to be taken. Code red calls that I've been putting out since last summer about safety, what needs to be done. We've done, Meredith has helped overseen 5 YouTube videos about discussions with myself on updates along with different departments in town. We also post information up on channel 18 for the public to see. So we're trying to get it out as much as we can through our social media. And it's also posted on, when we need to, out on the town Facebook. The senior center food distribution that I mentioned is the grab and go. That was all during the summer. We're doing the soup the last 3 Fridays of the month, and the brown bags the first of the month. Athletic events that we monitored during the summer was baseball up at the high school, working with the baseball, whether it was Babe Ruth or Legion teams up there. Worked with the high school fall soccer and field hockey to make sure precautions were taken for the players and parents watching the game. I would visit fall and the field hockey and work with the athletic director there. And I've now worked with the athletic director as we've switched over to winter, the basketball season and hockey that's playing at Tony Kenton DY. Visited both venues and have worked with the athletic director. They do have attendance coming in, and they do have athletes and parents sign a tracing form when they're there. So we're in close contact with the athletic director and watching the events as they go in. Establish regulations for the public. I think the board did that early in the pandemic. There was several board meetings that the board reviewed the beaches, the boardwalk, the playgrounds, and the dog parks, the precautions that need to be taken, and the posting of signs. Recently, we've been awarded, well, last year we were awarded a county grant to address substance abuse and disorders last year to work with kids at the high school. But unfortunately, with the pandemic, that did not go forward. Same with graduation was delayed. But that was a grant that Meredith was able to apply for us to move forward with. We're currently working with the county on vaccination sites on the Cape. As following the governor's 3-phase orders of vaccination, which was phase 1, the first responders, and now opening the phase 2 of 75 and older, and working when vaccine is available in sufficient quantities, the county is able to open the 4 to 5 regional ongoing sites. We're also working with the local pharmacies, CVS on Station Ave, on their vaccination policies. So I think the board has done quite a bit over the last year to get the message out to the town, and that was the point that the chairman and myself wanted to make to the selectmen at the last meeting. I
Thank you.
think that covers pretty much right there. Before we jump to the next thing, Mr. Chairman, I think we had gone over that. That's the highlights of what the board has done.
Good. Thank you.
Okay. Our next slide brings us into, if we can get up there, when can I get my vaccination? As I mentioned, the governor has 3 phases going. Phase 1 is pretty much complete with the first responders. Nursing homes have been done. We'll be finishing our first responders of police and fire. I've issued their first vaccination. Their second vaccination will be this week for police and fire. And I believe the nursing homes are this week. Some of them already have received their second shots. We have now moved into phase 2 in the beginning of phase 2, which is individuals over 75. So this is, go ahead.
Excuse me, could I ask a question about the nursing homes? Two questions. You said that none of the long-term care facilities are allowing visitors currently. Is that correct? In
Correct.
Yarmouth? Okay. And secondly, since there has been, perhaps not so much in Yarmouth, because I think I asked last time about how many residents and staff were accepting vaccination. Are there plans to revisit the nursing homes and the long-term care facilities and offer the vaccine again to the people who initially declined it?
Yes. The nursing homes, most of the nursing homes are getting tested 3 days a week, either staff or residents, to see if it's spreading through the nursing home.
What about vaccine?
The vaccine for the residents is almost at 100% within the residents within the nursing homes. The staff and the workers, I want to say, I'm just going to say generally, and don't hold me to it, has been about 50%, but that has been increasing the last week as they've gone through and offered additional vaccine. That's increased. We're working with the one of the nurses or health people at the county health department has visited a couple of the nursing homes to talk to staff about the benefits of getting the vaccine. So that is increasing. So I know they've made an appointment at a couple of the nursing homes, and we'll continue to work with staff on that.
That's gonna be something we're gonna have to address in phase 3 in sense of educating the public, encouraging everyone to get vaccinated. So that's up ahead. We're not there yet for sure, but.
But if we can't get our healthcare professionals to get vaccinated, it's going to make it more difficult to encourage the lay public to get vaccinated.
Correct. And we did have a couple of the nursing homes that had people that got vaccinated, did come down with COVID after about a week or 10 days, that they picked it up before they got their second shot and full vaccination. Okay.
Thank you.
This just explained the phase 2 will be, the first start will be 75 and above. Before that gets down to age 65 and above, or people with 2 comorbidities. That will probably be at more towards the end of February to March before we get down to the 75 and above. Okay, so keep going. Vaccination plans, I kind of went over that, there'll be 4 to 5 on the county. They're still trying to get the one Massachusetts Cape vaccination site. We've noticed a couple other sites in Massachusetts get open. The governor says they'll open one down here, and that's what we're still hoping for. Notifications to residents when sites open through our social media, the county helpline that's been established, the code reds, message board signs, and we'll get the message out to people that when vaccine becomes available. We'll also work closely with the senior center also.
And I received the notification that you told us about for the clinic that is going to be publicized tomorrow. I received 2 other notifications about it. So I think the town's doing a pretty good job of getting the word out.
Yes. The clinic tomorrow, we did get that out on our social media that the county's going to have one at the Melody Tent. And that will be for a sign up starting tomorrow morning. They can call the county helpline or get on the website, mass immunization. And I'll go back to the county number when we get to that.
Okay.
The vaccine information has also been on our YouTube, that we've probably been seeing about 400 to 500 people watching our statistics that way also.
Great.
Good. Vaccination clinics, as we're talking, people can go to mass immunizations And they will be able to get on the, sign up for the Melody Tent tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock for that one. They approximately have about 1,000 vaccine shots available. We did get that out, as you said. We sent it out to the senior center so people could get it out, that message also. Okay. The county plans, the people that do not have a computer that might be over 75 can call the helpline, and they will assist them in registering should they need to. And it's extension number 2. There's a couple extensions, but extension 2 will help people sign up for that. Okay, is that it that we don't have? We don't have the population. So just in general, when we look at our age population that's over 75, that are people have been calling us to get a vaccine, we approximately have 4,300 people in town that are over 75. So they're the ones that are asking us, how do we get a shot? Do we have to drive to Foxborough? We have health concerns. We're going for different types of health treatment. What can we do to be safe? So they're the ones that are looking to try to get the vaccinations. For people 65, including the people over 75, it's about 7,500 people that we would need to get shots to over a period of time, with our town population of about 23,000. So you can see it's going to take a while to get people that need a shot because of the average age for the whole county on the Cape here is about 26,000 people over the age of 75 of a county population of approximately 213,000. So those people that are going to want a shot, it's going to take a while at county until the sufficient vaccine arrives. The counties are getting about 975 shots a week, and they're starting to hold 1 or 2 clinics a week, but their clinics are filling up within 1 hour for people trying to get the vaccine. We're still getting quite a few calls within the department on, when can I get when and where can I get a shot, and what their health conditions are. So hopefully this will start getting the message out.
Bruce, one
yes.
of the things that we might mention is that healthcare systems in the area are calling their patients and telling them about vaccine availability in clinics that they're holding. Cape Cod Healthcare has done that. Dana-Farber has done that. Brigham Mass General has done that. So there are those other options that are helping to get the current priority group vaccinated.
Yes, and I know Cape Cod Hospital called when they had some vaccine that they were getting at about 2,000 shots at the Melody Tent. They did call a lot of their patients that were getting different type of treatment at the hospital that needed a shot that they could get in line. So they're getting as much vaccine out there to people that are looking for it with the health conditions, or people that are just concerned. We're working with a couple different agencies to see how we can get vaccine to people that are homebound, working with the VNA or the list up at the senior center that people can't even get out to a shot. So we're working on ways that we can do outreach within the community. We're also going to be looking into how can we get some extra vaccine that the state's making available to towns at a limit of 100 doses. And you can see that it's going to take a while to reach the public with that. But we're going to try to see all the avenues we can do to get vaccine out to the public as we go in the second step. But the big issue is the vaccine is not coming from the state to the Cape. We see vaccine going, whether it's Foxborough or Fenway Park or other sites across the state, but they're not making additional vaccine to the Cape, who has the highest elderly population of any county. So it's been very frustrated. We've been working with our representative delegations to the State House. I know they're working on that, and I've been also calling Department of Public Health with the concern also.
Bruce, do we know how many homebound patients that we have, or people, citizens in Yarmouth?
No, we're trying to work on that. We're trying to get a firm up that number right now, but I'm sure it's a couple hundred, if not more. And then you also have the people over 75 that cannot use the computer to schedule it. So we're trying to work on what that number is. And even if they can schedule, some of the clinics last week, the smaller one for 375 doses, I think, filled up in a half hour. So it's very frustrating for people to either get on a website, to have to go to Foxborough or the CVS on Station Ave to try to get in there. They're offering vaccines 7 days a week, but they have a waiting list of 5 days to try to get a site open there. There's also CVS's in Hyannis and Stop and Shop in Hyannis that are offering sites. So it's very difficult for the elderly population. So we're trying to see if we can make it easier through the health department to reach out to the seniors that are looking for a vaccine.
If anyone living on the Cape gets a call from a hospital off Cape, that if they're followed there, take it and go. Don't wait to get it here. I really urge everyone to do that.
Absolutely.
Well, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. I would say our next Board of Health meeting is scheduled for the end of the month, the 22nd. We do have a septic repair coming into us. Person's looking to upgrade their system. Hopefully we'll have more information on vaccination clinics at that time, and whether I can get on the tobacco hearing notification for that one or our first week in March. I'll work on that also.
Fair enough. Anyone else?
Yes, Bruce, you had sent out an overhead showing the 2020 opioid deaths. And I went back and looked at the previous years, and 2028 deaths are down from the 12 in 2019. The average age in 2019 was 36, and the average age this past year was 48, which is the trend, that the age of people using and dying is going up, but the number of deaths were down, which is interesting because I had read some news reports that said that opioid deaths had increased during the pandemic period last year.
I know Duffy Health Center is seeing more substance abuse inquiries right now. Luckily, they're not all dying, so that's good. But the age range of the 8 deaths that we had ranged between age 27 and 67, with the average death range of 48 for substance abuse. So that is a chart that I had in there that will probably include that as we go forward. We're working with the town clerk's office to pull that out because we know we're working with Duffy Healthcare. And maybe what we'll try to do is pull what our death rate is over the last 5 years with opiates and substance abuse in town. Because I don't want us to lose sight during this pandemic that we still don't have a substance abuse that we still need to keep
Focus on. Right.
Eric, Deborah, anything?
No, I mean, just about, I'm glad Mary brought up the substance abuse piece. I think I've mentioned this on previous ones. I think all the statistics and all the information's terrific. I just think that I'd like to see some more information on mental health. And I know that's been a big concern for 2020. I know I have a 14-year-old daughter doing hybrid school. I know adolescents are having a hard time. I'm sure parents are having a hard time. And I'd like to see within some of the information that we present some mental health.
We'll continue to look at that.
Yep.
Anyone else? If not, someone can make a motion for adjournment.
I move that we adjourn.
I second.
Second.
I first or
Okay.
second, you can choose.
So Deborah, are you in favor of this?
I'm in favor of it.
Mary,
Yes.
Eric, Charlie? Let's assume yes, I am also, so the motion passes and we've adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, guys.